Have you ever tried to help someone who only listens to reply? Someone who says they want to learn, but their mind is already full. This is a story about a young man who wanted wisdom, but discovered something even more important first. He learned the cost of a noisy mind, and maybe, by the end of this story, you will too. Long ago, in a mountain village, hidden between clouds, there was a master, known across the land for his wisdom. He rarely spoke, but when he did, people listened. One day, a young man from the city came to find him. He had traveled many days on foot, crossing rivers, forests, and hills, all to ask the master a single question: "Teach me." When the young man arrived, the master welcomed him with a bow and led him inside a small wooden room, lined with books, cushions, and a single tea kettle. Before the master could speak, the young man began. He talked about everything he had read: books, teachers, podcasts, philosophers. He quoted Lao Tzu, Buddha, and even modern thinkers. He spoke of meditation, mindfulness, the ego, the soul. He spoke fast, like his words were trying to outrun his doubt. The master nodded politely, but said nothing. After nearly an hour, the master gestured toward the kettle chest and said, "Let's have tea." The master took 2 cups and began to pour. The young man watched. The tea rose gently in the cup, then reached the brim, then kept rising. It spilled over the edge, onto the table, onto the floor. Startled, the young man cried, "Master, the cup is full. No more will fit." The old man smiled, then looked into the young man's eyes and said softly, "Yes, just like your mind." The room fell silent. The only sound was the faint drip of tea on wood. "You've come asking to be filled with truth," the master continued, "but you're already full of ideas, assumptions, conclusions. There is no space for anything new." The young man lowered his gaze. His cheeks flushed with quiet shame. He hadn't come to learn. He had come to prove he already knew. The master stood, walked toward the window, and pointed to the mist-covered peaks outside. "Do you see those mountains?" he asked. The young man nodded. "They are still because they do not speak." The master continued, "A noisy river cannot reflect the sky. Only still water can do that. The same is true for the mind." He turned back to the young man. "True learning begins not with more thoughts, but with fewer. The mind must become empty, like an open field after harvest. Only then can wisdom take root." The young man sat in silence. For the first time in years, he had no words. He helped the master sweep the floor. He sat quietly as the sun dipped behind the hills, and for the first time in his life, he listened, not with his ears, but with his presence. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. He still thought, but less. And when thoughts came, he let them pass, like clouds across a quiet sky. One day, the master handed him a teacup. It was the same one from their first meeting, still stained from that spilled tea. And on the rim, etched faintly, were 4 words: "Empty before you fill." The young man smiled and bowed deeply. In a world that teaches us to speak, to know, to impress, very few teach us to listen, to sit in silence, to make space, to be present without filling every moment. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is a container. Only when we empty our cup of ego, of noise, of judgment, can we taste the deeper tea of life. And maybe you, watching this now, have also come searching for clarity, for peace, for truth. Start by pouring out the noise, not all at once, but gently. Breathe. Let the thoughts pass, and in that stillness, you will hear something deeper. Because wisdom does not scream, it whispers, and it only speaks when you're quiet enough to listen. If this story helped quiet your mind or reminded you of something you'd forgotten, let me know in the comments. Tell me, what's one thought you're ready to let go of today? And if you know someone who overthinks too much, who carries too many answers, but still feels lost, send this story to them. Maybe it will be the pause they didn't know they needed. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Stories that don't just speak to your mind, but settle into your soul. And remember, before you search for answers, make space for them to arrive. This too begins with an empty cup.